welcome or welcome back to the channel. Today we are getting into another check-in. I am on week 10, or I'm finishing week 10 and starting week 11. So let's get into the material. If you watched the last video, which I hope you didn't just click number 10 and not go through any of the other videos. But if you did, you know what? You're an individual and I like you. Ooh. So, something that I mentioned in my last check-in is that these past 3 weeks have very much been my I want to give up weeks. Week 10 was no different. But see, I want to be optimistic or positive, or you know what? I think I just want to lie and say that I'm feeling better and that things are going to improve for the last 2 weeks. But am I? I don't think so. I'm very overwhelmed. I don't feel right now as down as I have been feeling. So that's good. But, it's early in the day. We'll see if I get totally, bowled over by all my responsibilities. Anyway, let's get into the material. The first section of the reading material for this week is more talk about self-destructive or self-sabotage behaviors, which, like I've said before, Julia Cameron talks a lot about addiction. She is a recovering alcoholic, so that's a big part of her journey in developing the practices that are in this book. A lot of this chapter uses the language of addiction, so a lot of these blocks and self-sabotage behaviors that she's talking about in the way of addiction. And one in particular that's mentioned is workaholism. And the thing that makes being a workaholic separate or special from other addictive behaviors is people are really praised a lot if you're a workaholic, because you're benefiting other people by doing that, by not especially in this capitalist society. My hood is bothering me. By feeling like you don't deserve to take a vacation, or your creative work is not as important as your more productive or paid work, or even unpaid labor that's more praise, instead of doing this thing for myself, I should clean up or cook or do things that will benefit everybody else except for me. And then seeing every minute of your day as not belonging to you because it can benefit someone else. It's easy to say, well, I don't have time to do these selfish creative things that would benefit me. And then also because people do have to work, identifying what it means to overwork or be working too much has its own difficulties. Then she talks about creative dry spells or droughts where you just feel like you have nothing to say, nothing you want to do. Her remedy to this is morning pages. To be in a slump and get through it with light work and trying to engage your mind in something in a low pressure way. I think that's good, and that probably helps. I don't know if my morning pages are that for me. I feel like my morning pages are not particularly insightful or inspiring. And I don't feel like they're like working magic on my brain. A lot of people like really believe in them, and a lot of people like really don't believe in them. And I'm very in the middle where I'm like, it's fine. I think it helps in some aspects. It feels like what she's saying is kind of like, if you are still sort of like playing around, keeping that like muscle memory up, then it's an easier transition to go from a little bit to a lot than it is to go from nothing to something. You know what I mean? I think it's kind of like an endurance thing too that she's talking about, where, well, it's like commitment. By doing something every day, you are just committing to the process, even when it's hard. This feels like a self-call out. What's happening? All right. I guess I'm in a drought, but you know what? I've been writing my morning pages. Do I feel like it's helping? No. Am I still doing it? Yes. The next section is about fame. Can't relate. But really more about like external validation. Like if fame or recognition is the metric by which you value yourself, you are always going to feel a sense of like anxiety over either maintaining that position or like moving the goalpost, becoming preoccupied not with doing the art or the work, but with how other people are going to perceive it, and their perception becoming how you value yourself, instead of taking the joy and the satisfaction in doing the work, telling your story, expressing how you feel. It's a disconnector between yourself and your art. And in the same vein as fame and external validation, the next section of the essay is about competition, and I don't think she uses the word envy in this at all, but I think part of it is the envy. You know, the same way you wouldn't be jealous of someone who doesn't have something that you don't want. You can't be in competition with someone who's not doing something that you want to do or that you're trying to do. The part of this that I sort of relate to is having like this focus on others and using it as a excuse to avoid doing your own work. Like, well, if someone else is going to do it, or someone else has done it and they did it better or faster or with more resources, why, like, what does me doing it have to add to anything? And that doesn't necessarily sound competitive, and I always think of myself as like, I'm not a competitive person, but it is comparison. And the root of competition is that you are comparing things. And she does also link this to the feeling of, if I can't do it perfectly, then why do it at all? Or perfection being the enemy of good. And I try really hard to let things be bad or let things be imperfect. And relating to that idea of like letting things be bad, something Julia says is, the thing that you're disliking that looks so bad to you could be what is driving you in a new artistic direction if you could just dig into it more, or like follow this impulse that you're trying so hard to resist. It could bring you into like your next evolution of your art, which I find to be a fascinating idea, because everyone has periods of time where like you're disliking your art, as the gap between your skill and your taste keeps like growing and shrinking, and you're like raising your standards or refining your ideas. But I see that as your mind is sort of outrunning your hands and your like material capability. But I've never thought of it in that what you're doing physically and materially could be possibly outrunning your conscious mind. So that's fascinating to me. I'm trying to think of if there was ever a moment where I felt that in my art, and I don't think so. I don't think I could identify one, but that's really interesting. Okay, on to the tasks. In the later chapters, there are only like 4 to choose from, and in the earlier chapters, there are sometimes like 10 of them. So I've always been going by do half, and then like if I wanted to add another one, then I could. With less choice, I have been finding it harder to pick which tasks to do. But I'm also trying to stick to that idea of if you really like one, do it, and if you really hate one, do that. So low-key, I picked 2 that I like. I was like, I don't like either of these. And now looking at the 2 that are, they're sort of connected to each other. I feel like I could have done one of them, even if I didn't want to do like the follow-up homework to it. That is the other task. I feel like I could have done one of the other ones and maybe gotten more from it, but I don't know. Because as much as the ones that I chose I felt were kind of difficult, I don't think they were. I was thinking they don't have that much value to me, but after doing them, I was like, okay, if I just free associate a little bit more, I can make this more meaningful to me. So let me be specific. So one of the tasks is to take 7 small pieces of paper and write on them alcohol, drugs, sex, work, money, food, and friends/family. Then you fold them up, you put them in an envelope, pick one out, and write 5 ways that these topics have had like a negative impact in your life. And when you finish with one, you put it back into the envelope, so you're always picking from all 7, even if you have to do the same one multiple times. So alcohol, drugs, and sex, I have very little experience with. So I was extremely resistant to this because I was like, this is going to be pointless for me. But because of that, I was like, well, let me do it. I may have been overthinking it and maybe should have skipped to a different activity. But I don't know. Like I was saying, I've had some rough weeks, but I did this and I just like expanded the topic, especially the drugs topic came up so like 4 times for me. Let me see. Maybe not 4, maybe 3. 1, 2, 3. 3. It came up 3 times for me. So I just like expanded it to like everything medical or in that space. and then I could do it. And I was just like very fast and loose with these subjects to make it fit my life in a way where I could reflect on it. So I did feel a little bit of a sense of catharsis while doing some of them. Like after the first couple were like, ugh, but I was able to like get myself more into it. And then for the next task, it's called Touchstones, and it is and the idea is to make a list of some things that make you happy and keep that around you so that whenever you're feeling down, you can reference the list and maybe indulge in or make contact with one of your happiness touchstones. Here's the thing. When Julia tells me, put this up on a wall or put this up near your workspace, I go, no. And also, I picked this one because I was resistant to it, but like, I don't super attach memories and feelings to objects, you know? Or you know how some people will say like scent really activates memory? Not for me. I don't feel like I have a lot of like positive tactile or like sensual triggers. I know I have sensory anxiety triggers, but I don't have, or at least I'm not super conscious of like objects that will like change my mood instantly. And you know, honestly, I probably should have kept this more in my vision because I was struggling this week. And maybe there are things I could have done that are on this list that would have helped me. But, you know, I was just in the dumps, you know. I didn't have the presence of mind to really cheer myself up. I had a rough week. So my touchstones did not become touchstones. And that's on me because I didn't do the activity correctly. I guess I'll have to try it and see if these things will actually change my mood. Because I feel like sometimes I am like reaching for something in a self-soothing way and it doesn't work the way that I hoped. But that could just be me being a pessimist, or like it's hard to remember positive things or things that help over things that are bad and things that hurt. And that's just how the human brain works. Alright, so that's going to be it for me. I wouldn't say I'm excited to head into week 11, but I will say I'm excited to be coming to the end of this journey. And I'm happy that I didn't quit these last 3 weeks because it's not like I wanted to. I did not actively want to quit, but I was not happy to be in the middle of this. So I'm glad I'm still doing it. Especially like the check-ins. I was really like, if I could not make this video, I would not do. I would. But I need to have the series finished. I just have to. Next week is 11, then we have 12, and the book is done. I'll have completed The Artist's Way. I still don't feel like I've made that much progress in a way, but I don't feel super negative about that. I don't know. So far, I don't feel like this book has like changed my life and changed my entire brain and how I think or anything like that. But I'm not unhappy or regretful at all that I did it or that I'm doing it. So, see you after week 11. If you like the video, like the video. If you have something to say, comment in the comments. And if you want to stick around with me on this journey, subscribe. All right. Bye.